Bimbo, please, I want you to wear something nice this time around. Something that covers your body. Tunde said, almost bleeding, his face soft and tender as he handed a bag of fabric to his wife. This is a family gathering and I don't want you to embarrass me there. What do you mean embarrass you? Bimbo asked with a teasing smile. You know I love to dress nicely and comfortably. Don't worry, I will wear something nice, okay? Just relax, she said mockingly, stepping out of the room with a stylish smile on her lips. Tunde and Bimbo had been married for 3 years. They loved each other deeply and it was obvious to anyone who saw them. Yet, there was one shadow over their marriage. They had no child yet. It bothered Tunde a lot, but Bimbo always brushed it off. It is God that gives children, she would say whenever the topic came up. But Tunde had another concern. Bimbo's way of dressing. She loved wearing skimpy revealing clothes and didn't care who was watching or where she was going. It embarrassed Tunde often and he never felt comfortable about it. Each time he tried to correct her, she would roll her eyes and say, I am a fashionista. I live in my own world. Sometimes their disagreements turned into heated arguments, followed by days of silence between them. A week before the christening of Tunde's twin sister's baby, fabrics were shared for the occasion. The men were to wear white senator material, while the women got white lace. Tunde gave Bimbo her fabrics and begged her to sew something decent and modest this time, but Bimbo had other plans. That weekend, she took her lace to her designer, Ibironke. Just sew me something classy and trendy. You know my style now, she said. Ibironke smiled and assured her. Don't worry, it will turn heads. That was exactly what Bimbo wanted to hear. A few days later, Bimbo returned to pick up her outfit. When she saw what Ibironke had made, her face lit up. It was bold, revealing and stunning. Exactly her taste. She paid immediately and left, excited for the big day. Saturday came. Tunde stood before the mirror, adjusting his white senator attire and smiling proudly. Bimbo, hurry up now so we can leave early, he called. But when Bimbo finally stepped out of the room, dressed for the occasion, Tunde froze. His smile disappeared. He slowly sank into the chair, looking defeated. Bimbo, what is this, for God's sake? He asked, his voice filled with disappointment. It is the best style anyone can get right now, she replied cheerfully, turning and adjusting her blouse. Isn't it nice? This is awful, Bimbo. It is too revealing. I begged you to wear something decent, but you chose this again? To disgrace me? Tunde shouted, his voice shaking. You are not going anywhere with me dressed like that. I won't let you embarrass me at my sister's occasion. Bimbo stood before him, blocking the door. You are not going anywhere without me. It is either I go with you or we both stay at home. Do you understand? She yelled. Tunde stared at her coldly for a moment, then sighed. Fine, he said quietly. Let's go. After all, everyone already knows you dress shamelessly, so it won't be a surprise. Bimbo didn't respond. She simply grabbed her handbag and followed him to the car. The drive to the ceremony was silent. Neither of them spoke, their faces stiff and hearts heavy. On getting to the occasion, different cars were already parked outside. The compound was full of guests and laughter and music drifting from the speakers. The moment Tunde parked, he hurried out of the car, his face tensed and frustrated. He didn't wait for Bimbo. He walked straight to the backyard where he hoped to find his twin sister, and thankfully she was there. Hey bro, why is your face like this? What happened? Turayo asked immediately she saw him. Tunde exhaled heavily and explained everything. How Bimbo had ignored his pleas, sewn another revealing outfit, and stepped out looking exactly like the embarrassment he feared. By the time he finished, Turayo's face was already boiling with anger. But why does she like embarrassing you every time, eh? She asked, shaking her head. Anyway bro, don't worry, I know what to do. Together, they walked back inside. Bimbo was already seated in the living room, smiling confidently like everything was normal. But the moment the guests saw her outfit, whispers started moving like wildfire. Ha! See what she wore again. This girl has no shame. On a christening day, Tunde's parents sat stiffly. their faces twisted with disgust and disappointment. It was clear they had no words left to defend her. Turayo watched everything quietly, then took a deep breath. She picked up a glass of red wine from the server's tray and walked towards Bimbo, with a fake smile plastered on her face. Just as she got close, the cup tilted in her hand and the deep red wine poured all over Bimbo's white lips. Bimbo shut up immediately. "What in God's name have you done?" she screamed, staring at the giant red stain spreading across her chest. "Why would you choose to ruin my dress like this?" Turaya dropped to her knees slightly, her hands raised apologetically. "Bimbo, please don't be offended. It was a mistake. I am so sorry. Let me take you to the room to clean up." She gently held Bimbo's hand and led her to her dressing room. Inside, she brought out a long decent gown and offered it to her. But the moment Bimbo saw it, she froze, then turned to Turaya with fire in her eyes. "So, this is your plan? You intentionally ruined my dress just so you can force me to wear this nonsense, right? Now I get it," she cried, her voice breaking. Before Turaya could explain, Bimbo shoved the dress away, burst into tears, and ran out of the apartment. She didn't stop to greet anyone. She didn't look back. Outside the gate, she flagged down a cab, jumped in, and cried all the way home, heartbroken, humiliated, and confused. When Bimbo got home, she went straight to the bedroom, locked the door, and broke down in tears. The humiliation, the whispers, the way everyone looked at her, it all crushed her. She cried until her voice became hoarse and her body weak. A few minutes later, Tunde arrived. He walked to the door and knocked softly. "Bimbo, please open the door," he said gently. "I am sorry for everything that happened today. Please, let's talk." But she didn't answer. She just sat on the floor, knees to her chest, crying silently until sleep finally took over. The next morning, Bimbo woke with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. She stepped out quietly to get a glass of water from the kitchen. As she turned towards the sink, she heard Tunde's voice coming from the guest room close by. He was on the phone. The call was on loudspeaker. "Turayo, I don't want to talk about it again," he said, sounding tired. But Turayo's voice came sharply from the other end. "See, bro, that girl is not the best for you," she said without hesitation. "She embarrasses you at every slightest opportunity. You better look for someone else, at least someone that can give you children." The words stabbed Bimbo like a knife. Her hand shook and shattered loudly on the floor. Tunde jumped in shock and rushed out of the room. "Bimbo!" he exclaimed. She stood there staring at him, her face pale, her eyes empty, her heart breaking right in front of him. So it has been all your plan all along," she whispered shakily. "You and your sister want you to marry another woman because I haven't given you a child, right? No problem, it's fine." She turned and ran back to the bedroom. Tunde chased after her and held the door before she could lock it. "No, Bimbo, please listen," he begged. "My sister didn't mean it. She was just angry. I swear to you, I will never marry another woman. Never. You're my wife. You are the only woman I want." Tunde pulled her into his arms and Bimbo broke down completely, crying against his chest. "Please don't take another woman," she sobbed. "I will be broken, so broken. I won't survive it." "I won't," he whispered, holding her tighter. "I promise." Weeks later, things slowly returned to normal. Bimbo resumed her clothing business as usual. Tunde focused on his work again. Their home was peaceful on the surface, but deep down, something fragile remained between them, something that both of them pretended not to notice. That night, the house was calm and peaceful. Bimbo crawled into her husband's arms, telling him how stressful her day was. "Tunde, I think we need a maid," she sighed. "Someone to help with house chores. It's getting too much." Tunde, thinking nothing of it, nodded. "No problem. Let's get one." Within days, they found a lady through an agent, a quiet young woman in her early 20s named Chisom. She was polite, hardworking, and quickly became familiar with the house routines. Bimbo liked her immediately, often giving her extra money whenever she was pleased with her work. Soon, she treated Chisom almost like her daughter. One Saturday evening, Chisom had gone to the market to buy foodstuffs. Tunde was in the bedroom attending a Zoom meeting. Bimbo was in the kitchen making a smoothie, dressed in one of her usual tight skimpy outfits, moving freely around the house. Suddenly, a heavy knock thundered against the door. Startled, Bimbo hurried to open it and froze. 4 masked armed men stood at the entrance. She screamed, "Move!" One of them backed. Her heart dropped as she stepped backward into the living room. "Who else is in this house?" another robber demanded. Before she could answer, Tunde, hearing the commotion, stepped out of the bedroom. The moment he saw the men, his legs weakened. "Blood of Jesus," he whispered. "Please, please don't harm us. Take anything you want." "We want all the dollars and gold in this house," the leader said, pointing his gun straight at Tunde. "Stand up and go bring it now." Tunde hurried into the room and returned with a briefcase filled with money meant for a project. The robbers checked it, nodded in satisfaction, and were about to leave when the leader paused and looked at Bimbo. "Omo, this your wife fine oh," he said with a slow, chilling laugh. "Skin like gold." His voice chuckled behind him. Tunde fell to his knees again. "No, please, no. You have everything we have. Please just go. Don't touch my wife." But the man ignored him. What followed shattered both of them. The leader forcefully dragged Bimbo away while the others held Tunde back. Tunde begged, cried and fought, prayed, but nothing stopped what happened next. It was brutal, violating and deeply traumatizing. When the attacker was done, he stood up casually like nothing had happened. "This one are correct, babe," he said coldly, signaling to his men. As swiftly as they came, they disappeared into the night. Silence swallowed the house. Tunde dropped to his knees, shaking, tears pouring uncontrollably. "Bimbo, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I should have protected you," he cried, his voice breaking. Bimbo sat on the floor, weak, trembling and devastated. Tears streamed down her face non-stop. She couldn't speak. She couldn't move. Her world felt shattered. Her soul felt broken. She knew life would never be the same. The following week was unbearable. Police came, church members came, family members came. Everyone was heartbroken and shaken by the attack. But Bimbo didn't speak to anyone. She locked herself in the bedroom, too ashamed, too broken to face the world. She cried until her tears dried up. She refused food. She refused conversation. Her family finally convinced her to go to the hospital for tests, to be sure she was medically safe. Thankfully, the results came out fine, but emotionally, Bimbo was shattered. What hurt her the most wasn't even the trauma of the assault. It was Tunde's change. At first, it was comforting, but slowly, he began to distance himself, and soon, his words became knives. "If you had dressed decently that day, maybe the robbers wouldn't have noticed you," he said one night, unable to hold back his anger. "Your reckless dressing brought this to us. You see what your stubbornness has cost you. Each time I tell you, dress well, you refuse. Now see. Look at yourself. What a shame." Each sentence stabbed her deeper. Instead of healing, she felt herself dying bit by bit. Her appetite disappeared. Sleep vanished. She grew pale, thin and weak. Yet, instead of comforting her, some family members whispered blame behind her back. To them, she brought the attack upon herself. Eventually, Tunde and Bimbo forced themselves to move on. At least on the surface, they resumed life, pretending the past was behind them. Until the day everything changed again. A few months later, Bimbo was in the kitchen preparing breakfast when a wave of nausea hit her so hard she dropped the spoon. She rushed to the bathroom and vomited violently. She had been feeling unwell for weeks and had already told Tunde about it. He reluctantly agreed they should go to the hospital. After several tests, the doctor finally sat them down. "Mrs. Bimbo, you are 3 months pregnant," he said gently. The room spun. Tunde froze. 3 months? Exactly the time of the attack. The words struck Tunde like thunder. His words cracked open. He stood abruptly, rage tightening his chest. Without a word, he stormed out of the office, leaving Bimbo there in shock. He drove straight to his sister's house. Turayo listened, eyes widening, her hands covering her mouth. "Bro, this is terrible," she whispered. "But please calm down. What has happened has happened. We need to think of the way forward." But Tunde sobbed uncontrollably. The betrayal, even though she wasn't to blame, felt like poison. When he returned home, he found Bimbo sitting on the floor crying. "Baby, you left me at the hospital," she said weakly. You drove us there. Why did you go without me? Tunde didn't flinch. His face was torn. You are getting rid of that bastard first thing tomorrow morning, he said coldly. I cannot allow that shameful thing to grow under my roof. Bimbo gasped, shaking. What? I can't abort the pregnancy. The doctor already warned me. When you left, I told him I wanted to remove it. But he said if I tried, I might die or lose my womb. Tunde's eyes hardened. I don't care if you die or lose your womb, he barked. That abomination must go by tomorrow, or you pack your things and leave my house. I won't live under the same roof with that thing. He stomped out, slamming the door behind him. Bimbo collapsed on the floor, weeping uncontrollably. She knows painfully that this was only the beginning of a problem. The weeks that followed were the hardest Bimbo had ever known. Tunde completely drifted away. No calls, no messages. Most nights he didn't return home, and when he did, he barely looked at her. He slept in the guest room, refusing to share the same space with her. Sometimes she heard him crying quietly. Other times she heard him pacing the room in anger. But for Bimbo, each night ended the same way. She cried herself to sleep, woke up to an empty house, and faced her reality alone. Everyone had turned their back on her except her mother. My daughter, all will be fine soon, her mother always said, even though her own eyes showed deep worry. The months crawled by painfully. Bimbo carried her pregnancy in shame and fear. The doctor had warned that an abortion could cost her her womb or her life. So she had no choice but to endure. At 8 months pregnant, she lived each day with anxiety and heartbreak. One sunny afternoon, Tunde was at the fuel station filling his tank when something caught his eyes. Across the road, Chisom, their mate, stood with 3 men, hefty, fearsome, their physique, their build, their mannerism. They looked disturbingly familiar. Too familiar. Tunde's heart pounded. He quickly brought out his phone and secretly recorded the scene, snapping clear pictures before driving off. When he got home, he found Bimbo in the living room, crying softly. Something inside him broke. For the first time in months, he saw her pain, really saw it. The loneliness, the shame, the trauma she didn't deserve. Suddenly, the bitterness in his chest melted into guilt. He sat beside her, pulled her close and held her tightly. I am sorry, he whispered, his voice trembling. I am sorry for the insult, for abandoning you, for blaming you. None of this was your fault. You didn't invite those criminals into our home. I failed you. Bimbo wept harder, clinging to him. Thank you, she sobbed. Thank you for coming back to me. Just then, the front door opened. Chisom walked in. Good afternoon, madam. Good afternoon, Oga. She greeted, startled to see them sitting together. She tried to hurry past, but Tunde stood up sharply. Stop right there. Chisom froze. Where are you coming from? He demanded. And who were the men you were talking to earlier today? Because I saw you. Her eyes widened in shock. Sir, that's not true. Madam sent me to the market. I was not with anybody. Oh, you want to lie? Tunde eased, pulling out his phone. Take a look at this. He played the video. Chisom collapsed to her knees instantly, trembling. Oga, I swear I don't know them. They just asked me for direction. She lied, her voice shaking. Good. We will let the police decide. Tunde replied, already dialing. No, Oga, please no. She screamed, grabbing his leg. I will confess. I beg forgive me. Bimbo's heart stopped. Chisom burst into uncontrollable tears. One of them, na my boyfriend. Na him I tell say this house get money and gold. Na me send them come. But Oga, I swear, I no tell them make them touch madam. I no say them go do that kind thing. I beg, forgive me. Silence hit the room like thunder. Bimbo's knees buckled. She fell to the ground, shaking violently. What? What did I just hear? She whispered. You, Chisom! After everything I did for you, after the love I showed you. Her voice rose into a scream. You are a demon, a monster. Tunde immediately called the police. Within minutes, officers arrived and took Chisom away in handcuffs. But as they dragged Chisom out, Bimbo's breathing became fast and shallow. Her vision blurred. Sharp pain tore through her stomach. She clutched her belly and screamed, "Tunde! Tunde! Something is wrong!" She fell into preterm labor right there in the living room. They rushed her to the hospital, but despite the doctor's efforts, she lost the baby. The grief hit like a hurricane. Her screams echoed through the hospital corridors. Tunde broke down beside her bed, wishing he could rewind time, wishing he could undo everything, but it was too late. Their world had changed forever. Few months later, Bimbo recovered gradually, surrounded by the love and support she once thought she had lost. Her mother stayed by her side. Her siblings took turns checking on her, and even Tunde's family, especially Turayo, became pillar of strength. Turayo prepared herbs, pepper soup, and healthy meals to help her heal faster, constantly assuring her, "All will be well, my sister. God will restore everything you have lost." Chisom's case went to court and justice was finally served. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison for her role in the robbery and everything that followed. The news brought Bimbo a painful kind of relief. She never imagined someone she loved like a sister could betray her so deeply, but at least the truth had come to light. Through therapy and counseling, Bimbo and Tunde slowly rebuilt what had been shattered. The sessions were not easy. There were tears, confessions, apologies, guilt, and forgiveness, but they stayed consistent. Tunde learned to let go of blame. Bimbo learned to open up again. They held each other through every step. Their love grew stronger than it had ever been. To seal their healing, they renewed their wedding vows in a quiet ceremony with only close family present. As Bimbo walked down the aisle again, Tunde's eyes filled with tears. This time he held her hands with full commitment, no resentment, no distance, no shadows from the past. Bimbo also made a personal decision to stop dressing in ways that made her uncomfortable or attracted the wrong attention, not because anyone forced her, but because she wanted a fresh start, a new life with peace, dignity, and safety. Months passed and life slowly became beautiful again. Then one morning, Bimbo began throwing up. At first she thought it was stress or something she ate, but after a hospital visit, the doctor smiled warmly and said, "Congratulations, you are pregnant." This time, the joy was pure. No fear, no shame, no confusion. Tunde lifted her off the ground in excitement, thanking God repeatedly. It was their miracle, their own child, conceived in love, not pain. The months that followed were peaceful. Their home was filled with laughter again. At her baby shower, friends and family showered her with gifts, prayers, and songs. Bimbo glowed with happiness she once believed she would never feel again. Finally, the long-awaited day came. Bimbo gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Tunde couldn't stop crying as he carried them. Their hearts were filled. Their home was complete. After everything, the betrayal, the trauma, the loss, the shame, the pain, God restored their joy beyond what they imagined. They named their children in gratitude, and from that moment on, their story became a testimony of mercy, a testimony of healing, a testimony of love that survived the storm. The end. The moral lesson of the story is that painful experiences do not define us. What defines us is how we rise again after the storm. Bimbo went through shame, betrayal, trauma, and loss, but she healed and found joy again. A marriage survives not by perfection, forgiveness, patience, and mutual understanding. Bimbo and Tunde rebuilt their home only when they chose healing over blame. Assumptions and harsh words can destroy even the strongest relationship. Tunde's anger pushed Bimbo into deeper pain, proving that words carry power. Modesty and self-respect help protect us in a world filled with danger. Bimbo's change in lifestyle came from wisdom, not pressure. The people closest to us can sometimes hurt us the most, but the truth will always come out. Chisom's betrayed the family, but justice eventually prevailed. True friends stand with you in your darkest moments, not only when things are good. Bimbo's mother and loved ones helped her recover emotionally and physically. God restores what life takes away, sometimes double. After her loss, Bimbo received twins, a divine reminder that joy comes after sorrow. And lastly, healing takes time and seeking help is not weakness but strength. Therapy and support were crucial for their restoration. Thank you. Hey, beautiful ones. Thank you for seeing my story once again. I know you enjoyed it, and please, if you do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share.